you so much for joining this session, Mary Fabiola.
We,
Sorry?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I can hear you well, I can see you as well. So let me give a short intro about Mary Fabiola and then you can start your session.
All
So
right.
Miss Mary Fabiola Alexander, after her husband passing in 2000 of a malignant brain tumor, Mary Fabiola Alexander assisted in establishment of national brain tumor advocacy groups, assisting in organizing the inaugural meeting at the Royal North Shore Private Hospital in July 2023, and along with her children implemented the Australian Brain Tumor Quilt Project. She has a Facebook page named Community Development Projects, which she founded in 2014. This is not just social media when it comes to war-torn countries such as South Sudan. Her team are all based in North Africa and communicate with her via social media, telecommunications. She was the project development manager of SACIM, Society for Children Inoperable in Mauritius, from 2007 to 2008, a co-founder of CHARM, Cultural Historical Association of Rodriguans and Mauritians, 2004, a community representative of Broad Headway, Victoria in 2003 and 4. And she holds many roles like so so Miss Mary Alexandra is very oriented humanitarian principles and professional practices that made her profile very unique in terms of good outreach skills with the community activists across the board island. So that's about Mary Alexander, Fabiola Alexander. So that's an incredible positions for you to deal with many positions which are listed on in your biography. What an achievement. So please go ahead and the stage is all yours.
Thank you. Firstly, I'd like to thank Gaius for this opportunity to speak from experience and life experience, really. And I'd also like to thank Saratpa for all their work in assisting me in getting here on this platform. The use of community development in psychiatry and global mental health. Firstly, let's talk about adrenaline and stress. When you are scared or stressed, adrenaline is quickly sent into your body. This is commonly known as an adrenaline rush because it happens so fast. You've probably heard of fight or flight. Adrenaline is what gets your body ready to fight or flee danger. According to Harvard Health, in understanding this stress response, chronic activation of this survival mechanism impairs health. And psychologists globally say that overly frequent, intense, or inappropriate activation of fight or flight response is implicated in a range of clinical conditions, including most anxiety disorders. You see, in 1993, when my late husband was diagnosed with glioblastoma multiforme, the most lethal of all cancers, let alone all the different types of brain tumours one can attain, very indiscriminately, in retrospect, I suffered a lot of stress as his wife and primary carer. The constant release of adrenaline into my system from the stress was enormous. I lost 11 kilograms in 1 week. And believe me, when one is caring for a loved one with a malignant brain tumour, one has to think really fast and be on the ball with the ever-changing dynamics facing the patient that we are caring for. These dynamics include seizures, migraines, vomiting, and cognitive disabilities that they are always prone to dependent on the location of the tumour. Suffice to say, we jumped over this hurdle what with him having some of the best specialists in Australia at the time, coupled with my holistic care, he survived for 7 years with a prognosis of 18 months. And we were blessed with our 2 children during that time. For my late husband, Robert John Alexander, and I to bring a child into the world, we considered a great responsibility. By this, I mean that our thoughts were that the duty of care and providing them with a well-rounded physical, spiritual, emotional, and psychological avenue and framework for their well-being was utmost. And that is why when we decided to have our first child in 1995, we wanted it to be as natural a childbirth as possible. Unfortunately, it was not. My thoughts were that a female obstetrician and gynecologist would be the best option, especially a mother herself. This was not the case, as she had a lot of problems and left me to give birth by an untrained midwife as a nurse from the public hospital, as this would not be as costly for her. This untrained midwife almost killed my baby and I with the epidural that she didn't know how to administer, leaving my late husband in tears watching us going through this physically. Suffice to say that I went home with severe postnatal depression from this trauma of my childbirth, but ever so ecstatic that my baby girl had survived. So I breastfed as much as I could and concentrated on giving my baby a holistic environment to thrive in. Mind you, the local professional midwife who ran the baby classes in Wonthaggi, Victoria, Australia, where we lived, provided me with excellent holistic opportunities to focus on the important issues of caring for an infant naturally. I shall touch on the most natural childbirth of my second child at the only recognised UNICEF hospital in Australia at the time in 1998 within my summary. Between 2000 and 2011, my children, then 14 years old and 11 years old, and I were living in squalor. We were living in a dilapidated public housing property that you can't even Google. I was at the time cared for by my cousin and guardian at state trustees, whom I now believe was trying to make me suicidal because she was stealing and had stolen from me. She made sure that my treating team made me totally unrecognisable and incapacitated on antipsychotic depot injections. And all I did was sleep all day and night, except to take my children to school and pick them up. These injections of antipsychotic drugs can cause tobacco addiction, which they as treating teams blame the patient for. Not only that, but the use of aripiprazole, Abilify Magenta, is considered by many health professionals as lethal to the patient. A medical doctor by the name of Robert Soho, MD in California, recently told me that all antipsychotic drugs are frauds and that they can age the patient by 10 to 20 years, causing all sorts of physical ailments. So instead of the natural serotonin, dopamine, and endorphins that I used to get from running 10 kilometres per day, doing my household chores, gardening, playing soccer in the backyard, and dancing, I'm forced to exercise as best I can sitting down with my eyes closing all the time, as permanent damage has been caused by antipsychotic depot injections, much like a blind laboratory rat or mice. I guess one good thing is that I can listen to my music at the same time, which gives me serotonin. In terms of Abilify, aripiprazole, there has been a class action lawsuit in the USA, Canada, and UK, whereby it was identified that this drug also causes gambling addiction, promiscuity, and overspending. For me, it went further, causing me to attain polyps, requiring a right hemilectomy, which means having a major part of my bowel removed. I wasn't even able to cook for my children on this medication. Not that we could afford to eat on what we were being given by state trustees. due to a vehicle that had been sold to me by my guardian that guzzled up fuel and was unroadworthy. My little dog died of malnutrition as a result, and their care for me with these injections. My cousin, as my guardian, as state trustee, decided to take me to the first treatment to partake in a clinical trial at the Alfred Hospital, where I was the only one participating in it. After this, all my memory of what I had been able to achieve in the past was wiped out. So one day when my children were at school, I walked out of the house, left the door open and went to the bridge behind the house. I climbed up on the pillar and in my mind was to commit suicide by jumping off in front of the many Mack trucks that zoom along that freeway. As cars drove past me on Police Road, I didn't even flinch. If it had been a windy day, I would have been blown off the bridge. Then all of a sudden, reminiscent of the final scene of the movie Patch Adams, a butterfly didn't fly past me, but I thought about my two children and how I didn't want to leave them in the hands of these wolves as relatives who were pretending to be ever so supportive. So slowly I squatted down, holding onto the light pole and got off the bridge and walked home and did not tell anybody what I had done. At the time, I didn't flinch about the thought, but now every time I drive over that bridge, I remember this time very vividly and feel mortified at the thought of where my mind was actually at during that time. Then I was released by the treating team to my general practitioner and soon got better without the antipsychotic medication or depot injections. And by this time, it was coming to my daughter's 18th birthday, and I really wanted to lose all the weight that I had put on. And with the medication and look nice for a party I planned to throw her daughter and family and friends. So I joined a gym where we lived with my late parents and would go there every morning. Then I would drive to Dandenong and wait for a computer internet cafe to open as I was trying to find a job. But one day I got tired of waiting for them because they opened really late. And I walked up to a hotel in Dandenong to have a coffee there. And that is where I met Abraham and his fellow South Sudanese refugee friends. They were also friendly and warm to me instantly. Abraham and I became friends, and I started to remember my work as a community development worker and purchased a tiny diary for appointments and information that I could assist Abraham and his friends with. You see, they were all refugees who had suffered trauma in a war-torn country, and a lot suffered with mental health issues, much like my students at the English language school for refugee children and youth, most of them having come from Afghanistan by Pakistan refugee camps. That all being said, by the time my daughter's birthday came along, I was starting to look like my old self. I hired a hall and decked it out, complete with all pink decorations, and prepared a YouTube video of photographs to music that I planned to play after the speeches, which I left her close friends to do. What a night it was. Abraham came with his friends, and we would soon move out of the dilapidated public housing property, and he would move in with us in a brand new town. Then civil war broke out in his homeland of South Sudan. And I put together from memory, which was starting to come back, all of my community development skills and started a Facebook meta page called Community Development Projects as a response and quest for peace in South Sudan. I formulated a team based in South Sudan and Kenya, and together we accomplished a lot, even ensuring that former United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon would visit for peace talks. Ever since, I will not let anyone walk through my mind with their dirty feet. What you must remember is that treatment, whether it be pharmaceutically or in general, can make your patient either suicidal or homicidal, depending on their DNA and general character. And that is why You unsuccessfully try and gauge whether your patient or client is expressing these feelings by behaviour. They're never going to tell you, because when you collude with their so-called guardians and carers against them, you simply do not listen objectively enough to understand. So in summary, I should leave with an anecdote and quote from my favourite artist, Vincent van Gogh. My son, our second child, was born on the anniversary of Vincent van Gogh's birthday, rather than 18 days earlier, Mauritius' Independence Day anniversary, when he was due. This is because we were in a failing business. My husband was getting sick again with signs of malignant brain tumour regrowth, which caused a lot of stress for me. This resulted in the natural oxytocin release needed to bring on natural drive birth, kept reversing from the constant release of adrenaline into my system. However, his birth, as I said, was the only recognised UNICEF childbirth hospital in Australia at the time, and it was the most natural of births. No gas, no epidural, no nothing, but me with two beautiful midwives, mums themselves, whom my male ONG left me with confidently. Amazing when the endorphins kicked in that night. I had such a high you could never possibly imagine. After I gave birth, my wonderful ONG said to me, "Here's a beautiful baby, Marie." As I was recovering, "Aren't you happy?" And I replied, "Yes, but I feel like I've been hit by a truck." With that, my late husband just smiled, no tears in his eyes, with what I went through the first time this time. So the quote is, art is to console those who are broken by life. If you truly love nature, you will find beauty everywhere. I try more and more to be myself, caring relatively little whether people approve or disapprove. Great things are not done by impulse, but by a series of small things brought together. Vincent van Gogh. So now I'd like you to write down what you would like to happen in psychiatry. I would like you to think about these things. The thoughts I've had in global mental health issues and world psychiatry is, what is the most important outcome in world psychiatry and global mental health today? How do we achieve this, and how do we maintain it? Does anybody have any thoughts? Melinda Roy has just said yes. She's the speaker. She's qualified by now.
Mary, you're asking something. Can you hear me? You're on mute. You're on mute. We can't hear you. We can't hear you. You went on mute.
Sorry. Hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Sorry, we
Thank
lost
you.
a bit and it's on mute. Yeah, you were asking something?
Yes, I was asking what everybody thought was the most important outcome in world psychiatry and global mental health today. And I also was asking, how do we achieve this? And also, how do we maintain it?
You're okay? Your eyes are okay?
Yes, it's just aripiprazole. It'll take 11 months to come out of my system. Hopefully, it hasn't been permanent damage.
Okay. Do you want to take a break or?
No, I'm fine. People ask me everywhere I go, you're okay, you're okay. I just have to force my eyes open sometimes.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead, please. You can continue.
At Facebook, do you have any thoughts? It's a rather serious issue. Perhaps you can ask me later. Or would you like me to give you some solutions? What is the most important outcome in world psychiatry and global mental health? Well, I think in terms of humanity, it means that, in my view, every human being has free access to live a free life in terms of being able to attain their good karma in ways that they feel they need to, without the use of illicit drugs and without hurting others. How do you maintain it? How do we achieve this? Through education, I suppose. But everybody's education is different. In all nations, it's different. We need to understand cultural and linguistic differences when we have migrants and refugees that we are hosting in our country. How do you become a refugee? Sometimes they're internally displaced within their own country for various reasons. Achieving peace is vital to this. Global peace doesn't mean I'm all right Jack in Australia. I don't care about the rest of the world. I've never been that way. I never will be that way. I don't have that sort of mindset. I don't get envious of others. I've always been that way. I've always been a forthright speaker. So how do we maintain integrity, respect? There's so many of those key words that we can use to maintain peace for everyone on earth, calming influences on us from the time we're in the room to the time we lay to rest. I haven't gone over my session time, have I? Melinda? I'm going to leave everybody to ponder these thoughts.
That was a wonderful and enlightening speech, Maria Fabiola. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And many people have responded with so many questions. So the most important question out of it is like, how do you handle these many roles being alone?
I'm sorry?
How do
Could you
you
repeat that?
handle? Sorry,
How do I what?
how do you handle these many roles being alone?
Well, I have my son and my daughter who are very close. We've been through a lot together, and we maintain a very close knit family life. And I've just got back together with my ex-husband, who was my first husband. We don't have children together, and we communicate all day, every day. And it's really nice to have someone supporting you in your quest for your not just your career, but in life in general. He has a very good attitude towards life. He always says to me, "Just another day in paradise."
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much, Marie, and we wish you all the very best for the future and looking forward to
Thank
working with you. Thank you for your time. And ladies and
Thank you.
gentlemen, that's Marie Fabiola. What a wonderful and insightful speech. Let's join our next session and we'll keep you posted.